good ideas come when questions get asked and we are open. In 1978, I had an Indian girlfriend, Mira Nair. She had come to the US to study at Harvard, and I met her there. And she went back to India to do her thesis film and invited me to join her. And I was interested in what it would be like to go to India, to go so far off from where I came from. A lot happened in that period, and in 1987 I was approached by Aperture to do a book with my Indian pictures. I was still in the middle of this period of my life where I was involved with India and continuing to photograph and make work there. While I was happy to have had that book and to have had my first project as a book published, I didn't think a whole lot about the Indian work until the last few years, and especially during the pandemic, where I had a lot of time to look back in my archive and realized that I had a very different way of seeing that work now, 30 years past. I think that I was emotionally very too close in some ways to have enough detachment to see the work critically. I was very comfortable moving through various aspects of Indian society, and I think that partly was due to the privilege of my position, my vantage. Being part of an Indian family, I had special insight into things Indian, but also as an American, I had a freedom to not adhere to certain just stratifications, certain biases that are embedded in Indian society. Caste, class, religion. I mean, these were all things that I was very aware of, but also felt very free to move between these various worlds and stratifications of Indian society. Here I'm photographing one of the dancers that were the subject of a film that I worked on with Mira, India, Cabaret. And so we spent time with these dancers by day and by night. Rekha was in her apartment, and this was shortly after the assassination of Indira Gandhi. And I appreciate her kind of repose as she's smoking a cigarette by her altar. So you see all of her Hindu gods, but also you see how she's put these newspaper clipping of a picture of Indira Gandhi with a bindi on her forehead with flowers, making it really quite specific to a certain moment in time. Having let all this time past has enabled me to de-romanticize or de-sentimentalize the experience. And so I think that sometimes time is helpful. These pictures are of the past, but they also, to me, feel contemporary. Like I could have just made them recently, even though I don't make pictures quite like that anymore. I was interested in the photographic idea of the tableau, of looking at a scenario and building a number of elements and finding a way to bring them contextually into some kind of harmony, some relationship with each other. I love the interplay between this young woman and her gesture and this little calf here sitting to the left. I think part of what's really meaningful to me about the book and about the experience of working in India was what I gained by crossing the enormous cultural border between being an American, between growing up post-Second World War in a very privileged baby boom era where everything felt possible. There was just always this interplay between real life and fictionalized life through the Bollywood film industry. So here I appreciate how the Arabian Sea and setting sun becomes this kind of backdrop for how I use a flash to light the foreground with this gesture of a man who looks like he's dressed like John Travolta. The colors of India beckoned, they were so strong. Sometimes it, for me, was about the challenge of how to reduce, to simplify, because there was often so much kind of going on. So here, I'm in a tea stall in South India, and with a strobe, I was often reflecting it off of ceilings and just kind of filling these spaces that were otherwise quite dark. I love the yellow flowers that are wrapped in newspaper set against this backdrop of the blue walls. On one hand, they feel like a long time ago, and even though I haven't been to India in more than 30 years, and I know it's changed radically, for me, this is the India that I left, and so it's very present. It still feels very vivid and very present, as if I just left it, and maybe that's a good thing. Going to India, which has such a complex and deep history compared to the United States, which is, such a short history, I opened myself up to experiences and to stepping into worlds that were alien, very unfamiliar, and having to kind of figure out my way as I went along. And I think the lessons from that were lifelong and have informed my work very much as an American.